All right, let's dive into a world we all swim in every day, currencies.
Yeah.
We use them constantly, but how often do we really stop and think about what makes one currency better than another?
It's a question that goes deeper than just exchange rates, you're right?
Yeah.
We rarely think about it, but a currency is a reflection of a country's economic health,
Hmm.
its history,
Right.
and even its place on the global stage.
And for this deep dive, we're taking a look at a fascinating source,
Yeah.
a ranking of the top 10 best currencies in the world from the top10s.com.
Okay.
Now, full disclosure, this isn't some big scientific study.
Right.
It's based on user votes.
Which makes it even more interesting.
Yeah.
It gives us a peek into how people around the world perceive different currencies,
Mm-hmm.
what they value, and what they associate with strength and stability.
Okay.
It's a mix of hard economic data and gut feeling.
Exactly. So we're not just looking at numbers.
Right.
We're exploring perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Do people prioritize a country's future potential?
Yeah.
Its stability?
Yeah.
Or maybe even the look and feel of the banknotes themselves?
It's all part of the equation.
Yeah.
And by examining these diverse perspectives, we can gain a much richer understanding of the forces that shape global currencies.
So buckle up. The number one spot on this list might surprise you.
Okay.
It's the Indian rupee.
Now, if you were going purely by economic indicators,
Yeah.
India might not be at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But what's striking here is the emphasis on India's future potential.
Yeah.
Commenters point to their massive and young population,
Wow.
the skilled workforce, and the abundance of natural resources.
It's almost like they're looking beyond the present and betting on India's trajectory.
Right.
They see a rising economic powerhouse, and the rupee is a symbol of that optimism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a strong current of national pride flowing through those comments, too.
Uh-huh.
It seems that for many, the rupee represents not just economic value,
Right.
but also a belief in India's growing influence on the global stage.
But of course, not everyone's convinced. Some commenters push back on the idea that a developing nation should top the list,
Right.
arguing for currencies from more established economies.
And that's where the subjective nature of this ranking really comes into play.
Yeah,
What defines best is up for debate.
for sure.
For some, it's about current economic dominance.
Mhm.
For others, it's about future potential.
Speaking of established economies, coming in at number 2 is a currency steeped in tradition,
Oh,
the Great British Pound.
the pound has a long history of stability,
Right.
which breeds trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's recognized worldwide and seen as a reliable store of value,
Right.
even as the UK navigates its post-Brexit landscape.
And there's a certain charm to it, too.
Yeah.
One commenter specifically mentioned loving the pound's unique design and how easy it is to use compared to some other currencies.
That's a great example of how personal experiences shape our perception of currencies. It's
Yeah.
not always just about the macroeconomic picture.
Right.
Sometimes it's about the feeling a currency evokes, the trust it inspires.
And, this commenter also brought up an interesting comparison.
Ugh.
They said they prefer the pound to both the US dollar and the euro.
Which makes sense given their concerns about the euro's economic challenges in recent years.
Yeah.
The pound, in their eyes, represents a more stable and predictable bet.
And then, unsurprisingly, in third place, we have the US dollar.
Of course.
No shocker there.
The dollar's dominance is rooted in the sheer size and power of the U.S. economy.
Right.
It's the world's largest economy and heavily involved in global trade and finance. It's almost like the default setting for the world.
One commenter even said, and I quote, "The U.S. will be a superpower until the planet is destroyed, which is why we will always have the strongest currency."
Wow.
A little dramatic, maybe?
Perhaps a bit over the top,
Yeah.
but it highlights the perception of the U.S. dollar as a safe haven asset. Especially during times of global uncertainty, investors flock to the dollar,
Yeah.
boosting its value.
But even the mighty dollar has its quirks.
Ooh,
One commenter actually criticized its design,
interesting.
saying it feels like monopoly money compared to some of the other currencies.
It raises a fascinating question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does aesthetics matter in the world of high finance?
I think it does.
Yeah.
These notes and coins, we interact with them every day.
Right.
A well-designed currency can evoke national pride
Mhm.
and even inspire confidence in its value.
Yeah,
It's a subtle but powerful form of symbolism.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini work of art that we carry around in our pockets, a reminder of a country's history, culture, and aspirations.
So we've got a clear top 3, the Indian rupee, the Great British Pound, and the US dollar.
Okay.
but the list goes on, and believe me, there are some real eye-opening insights as we move down the rankings.
Each currency has its own unique story to tell,
Yeah.
a reflection of the nation it represents,
Mhm.
and those stories can be surprisingly revealing.
Shall we keep exploring?
Let's dive deeper.
We've just scratched the surface of this ranking, and already it's clear that the idea of a best currency is way more complex than you might think.
Yeah, it's not just about economic might.
Right.
It's about perceptions, future outlooks, and even the cultural weight a currency carries.
Like that comment about the Australian dollar,
Uh-huh.
where someone said a developing nation could never have a stronger currency. That really stuck with me.
Yeah, it reveals a lot about preconceived notions about economic power.
Yeah.
It also speaks to the Australian dollar's reputation for stability.
Which makes sense when you look at Australia's resource-rich economy
Mm-hmm.
and traditionally sound fiscal policies. They've weathered global storms pretty well.
Exactly. And speaking of resources, let's move on to number 4 on the list, the Australian dollar.
Okay.
Commenters often point to those same factors, stability, a strong export market, as reasons for their faith in the Aussie dollar.
And let's not forget, they have those cool plastic banknotes.
Oh, yeah.
Durable, hard to counterfeit.
Practical and a bit of a novelty. It speaks to a certain forward-thinking approach. But let's jump to a currency that consistently ranks high in terms of pure value, the Kuwaiti dinar.
Now, this one's a bit of a heavyweight champ, right?
It is.
It's known for having one of the highest exchange rates in the world.
That's right. One Kuwaiti dinar is worth significantly more than a US dollar.
Wow.
This is largely due to Kuwait's vast oil wealth combined with a relatively small population.
So a lot of money concentrated in a smaller economy.
Yeah,
That makes the dinar incredibly powerful in terms of purchasing power.
exactly. They also have a stable pegged exchange rate, which helps maintain that value.
Okay.
It's a reminder that a currency's strength is influenced by a whole web of interconnected factors.
Moving on, we have the euro, which stormed onto the scene not too long ago.
Yeah.
It was a bold move, creating a unified currency for a large chunk of Europe.
And it quickly gained prominence. A lot of the comments focus on the diversity of the euro's design,
Right.
with each country having its own unique coins.
Mm.
It's meant to represent unity and diversity.
It's almost like a mini history lesson in your pocket.
Yeah.
You've got ancient Roman bridges on one coin, a portrait of Mozart on another.
Right.
Quite different from the US dollar's more uniform approach.
That uniformity is often criticized, though.
Really?
Some see it as a lack of personality compared to the euro's more vibrant approach. It's interesting how aesthetics can play into perceptions of value, isn't it?
Definitely. It's about more than just the numbers.
Right.
It's also about the story a currency tells.
Speaking of stories, number 7 on the list is the Japanese yen.
Okay.
And the comments here often reflect a deep respect for Japan's industriousness and economic resilience.
They've faced their share of economic challenges over the years,
Yeah.
but the yen has remained a symbol of stability. Commenters often associate it with quality, precision, almost like a reflection of Japanese craftsmanship.
It's tied to that image of a hardworking, technologically advanced nation.
Yeah.
Even though Japan has a high cost of living, the yen is seen as a reliable store of value.
And then we have the Turkish lira, which is an interesting case.
Okay.
Turkey is a country with a lot of economic potential, bridging Europe and Asia, and playing a key role in regional trade.
Commenters often highlight Turkey's young and growing population,
Okay.
its strategic location, and its increasing involvement in global markets. They see a lot of room for growth.
But the lira has also faced its share of volatility in recent years.
That's true.
So there's a sense of cautious optimism people are watching to see how Turkey manages those economic challenges.
It's a reminder that geopolitical factors can play a huge role in a currency's fortunes. And speaking of geopolitics, next up is the Russian ruble.
Given the current global situation, it's understandable that the comments on the ruble are a bit more subdued.
Yes, it's a currency facing headwinds.
Yeah.
The ruble's value has been impacted by sanctions and global economic uncertainty.
Rounding out the top 10 is the Mexican peso,
Okay.
and there's a definite sense of national pride in the comments.
Mexico is one of the largest and fastest growing economies in Latin America.
Right.
And that's reflected in the optimism surrounding the peso.
Commenters believe the peso is undervalued and see it as a smart investment. They point to Mexico's manufacturing base, its growing middle class, and its close ties to the U.S. economy as reasons for their confidence.
So we've explored the top 10, a mix of established giants and rising stars. But this ranking goes even deeper. It includes sections for newcomers and contenders, which is where things get really interesting.
Oh.
We start to see currencies from all corners of the globe, each with its own unique story and a passionate fan base.
And that's where we'll pick up in part 3. Stay with us as we delve into these hidden champions and the stories they tell. We've journeyed through the top 10 currencies and explored some rising stars.
Right.
But this ranking has more to reveal.
It does.
It's got sections for newcomers and contenders.
Okay.
Currencies that might not be household names, but that hold a lot of potential and that inspire a lot of passionate debate.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're going beyond the usual suspects and discovering currencies that reflect a changing world. A world where economic power is shifting and new players are emerging.
Like you look at the newcomer section
Yeah.
and you see currencies like the Afghani.
Okay.
It's not just about the Afghani's value.
Right.
It's about the hope it represents for a nation rebuilding itself.
One commenter said, "I was born in a developing country, I am living in a fast developing country, and our next generation will be living in a developed country that will be Afghanistan."
Wow, that's powerful.
It's a powerful statement of belief in the future.
Absolutely, and it shows how a currency can be more than just a medium of exchange.
Yeah.
It can be a symbol of resilience, of aspiration, of a people's determination to build a better future.
Then we have the Jordanian dinar,
Okay.
a currency that reflects a nation striving for stability in a volatile region.
Right.
It's facing its own set of economic challenges. But there's a sense of resilience there, a commitment to progress.
Moving on to the contenders, we have the Canadian dollar,
Okay.
often seen as a steady and reliable alternative to the U.S. dollar.
Canada's economy is closely tied to the U.S.,
Right.
but they've carved out their own path. Commenters often praise the Canadian dollar's stability and its performance against its southern neighbor. There's also that bit of trivia about their plastic banknotes.
Right, the ones that stick together when they're new.
Exactly.
One commenter talked about getting two 20s stuck together at a store.
Yeah.
It's a funny quirk.
Yeah.
But it also shows how Canada has adopted innovative approaches to currency.
And those polymer banknotes are more durable, harder to counterfeit.
Right.
It speaks to a focus on practicality and security. But let's shift gears to a currency that's been attracting a lot of attention in recent years, the Chinese renminbi.
China's economic rise has been nothing short of remarkable.
It has.
And the renminbi is seen as a reflection of that growing power.
Commenters believe the renminbi is undervalued and predict it will continue to appreciate in value as China's role in the global economy expands.
It's a currency that's closely watched by investors and policymakers alike.
It is.
Then we have the Hong Kong dollar,
Yeah.
a currency that represents a unique blend of East and West.
Hong Kong is a global financial hub,
Right.
a gateway between China and the rest of the world, and the Hong Kong dollar reflects that international standing. It's freely convertible and widely traded.
Commenters often talk about Hong Kong's high standard of living,
Yeah.
its efficient infrastructure, and its reputation as a center for trade and innovation.
Right.
They see the Hong Kong dollar as a symbol of that success.
Next, we come to the Singapore dollar,
Hey.
a currency that represents a nation that's punched above its weight in terms of economic achievement.
Singapore is a small island nation,
Is.
but it's transformed itself into a global economic powerhouse.
They've focused on education, technology, and attracting foreign investment.
And the Singapore dollar reflects that commitment to excellence.
Yeah.
It's stable, it's strong, and it's widely respected in international markets.
One commenter even gave a shout out to the design of the $20 note,
Oh, really?
calling it unique and visually appealing.
Do we have the Malaysian ringgit,
Okay.
a currency that's riding the wave of Southeast Asia's economic dynamism?
Malaysia is a country with a lot of natural resources, a growing manufacturing sector, and a young and ambitious population.
Okay.
Commenters often express optimism about the ringgit's future potential.
And right after the ringgit, we have the South Korean one,
Right.
another currency backed by a strong and innovative economy.
South Korea is a global leader in technology, manufacturing, and pop culture.
The ringgit one has had its ups and downs,
It has.
but it's generally seen as a stable and reliable currency.
And then there's the Pakistani rupee,
Okay.
a currency surrounded by passionate belief in its future potential.
Pakistan has faced its share of economic and political challenges.
It has.
But commenters remain optimistic. They point to recent trends in the exchange rate and express confidence that the rupee will strengthen over time.
It's a reminder that a currency is more than just an economic indicator.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of a people's hopes and dreams for their nation.
And closely following the rupee is the Indonesian rupiah,
Right.
another currency from a rapidly developing economy.
Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous nation,
Wow.
and it's experiencing rapid economic growth driven by a burgeoning middle class and a growing manufacturing sector.
Next up is the Norwegian krone, a
Okay.
currency associated with a country known for its high standard of living
Yeah.
and its responsible management of natural resources.
Norway has leveraged its oil wealth to invest in education,
Right.
healthcare, and social welfare. Commenters often praise Norway's economic model and see the krone as a reflection of that success.
Then we have the Brazilian real,
Okay.
a currency that's seen its share of volatility but has ultimately emerged as a symbol of Brazil's growing economic power.
Brazil is the largest economy in Latin America
Right.
and a major player on the global stage.
The real has become a more stable and respected currency in recent years,
It has.
reflecting Brazil's economic reforms and its increasing influence in international markets.
And following the real is the Nepali rupee,
Okay.
a currency that stands out for its unique and beautiful design.
Commenters often praise the Nepali rupee's banknotes,
Yeah.
which features stunning images of endangered species and breathtaking landscapes.
It's a reminder that currency can be more than just a tool for transactions.
Right.
It can be a work of art, a celebration of a nation's natural and cultural heritage.
Then we have the Swiss franc,
Right.
long considered a safe haven currency, prized for its stability and its association with Switzerland's neutrality and financial prudence.
Switzerland is a global banking center
Mhm.
known for its sound economic policies and its reputation for secrecy and security.
The Swiss franc is often seen as a store of value, a refuge for investors seeking stability during times of global uncertainty.
And finally, we arrive at the Philippine peso, a currency that represents a nation on the rise.
The Philippines is experiencing rapid economic growth,
It is.
fueled by a young and growing population, a vibrant outsourcing sector, and increasing investment in infrastructure and tourism.
Commenters often express optimism about the peso's future potential as the Philippines continues to develop and integrate into the global economy.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
from the heavy hitters to the underdogs, exploring currencies from every corner of the globe.
And what's become clear is that the idea of a best currency is highly subjective.
For sure.
Dependent on individual priorities and perspectives, there's no single right answer.
It's about more than just exchange rates and economic data.
Right.
It's about the stories these currencies tell,
Yeah.
the hopes and aspirations they represent, and the role they play in shaping our understanding of a rapidly changing world.
So as you wrap up, the question we leave you with is this. What criteria matter most to you when it comes to evaluating a currency? Right.
Is it stability, growth potential, or maybe even the emotional connection it evokes?
The answer might surprise you.
It might.
And it might even change over time as you gain a deeper understanding of this complex and ever-evolving world of currencies. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.